Hello, I'm Jyotika. Welcome back to Excelling Psychology. In this series, we are looking at the new syllabus for AQA A-level psychology. Last time, we have covered types and explanations of conformity. Today, we look at the variables affecting conformity. First, we look at description and then evaluation. Before beginning, if you need your private tuition for psychology, or if you need to purchase notes, model answers, past paper solutions, my contact and store link are available in the description box and pinned comment below. So you can reach out from there. Okay, let's begin with the variables affecting conformity. If you haven't watched the previous lesson, which was the first lesson in the series, definitely watch that, not only to be aligned with the curriculum, but also to understand how I'm going about these lessons. Okay, in variables affecting conformity, first we have to know about Ash's study. Conformity just means agreeing with the ideas and behaviors of the majority. Ash did a classic study in this area. It's called the line task study. Ash called participants to a laboratory. So, at one time, one participant would come to a laboratory, and there would be many other people who were already sitting at the table, and the participant would be asked to join them. The participant was made to believe that these other people at the table were just participants just like him. In actuality, they were assistants of the researcher, and the participant did not know this. So, at a time, there would be 7 to 9 people at a table, one of which was the participant, whom we'll now call the naive, genuine participant. And the other 6 or 8 used to be assistants of Ash, and they were pretending to be participants. Now, what was the task for which they had come to the lab? Participants had been told that it's a visual task, visual judgment. The researcher is looking at how well people can look at lines and answer some questions about them. In actuality, Ash was studying conformity, and the participants did not know about this. So, on this screen in front of them, like there was a projector screen, their participants would get to see two sets of lines. Okay, I'm drawing very roughly here. In any textbook or through a simple Google search, you'll find a good diagram for this. Just write Ash's research. So, on one slide, the participants would get to see one line in one set. This was called the standard line. And in the other set, they would get to see 3 lines. These were called the comparison line. So imagine you're the participant and these 2 sets of lines are there in front of you. The standard line is just referred to as standard line. Comparison line, there are 3 of them, A, B and C. The participant is given a very simple task, like all participants are told, you'll have to look at the lines and you'll have to say which of the comparison lines is matching in length with the standard line. As simple as that. And participants were told after seeing the slide, when the researcher starts asking, one at a time they have to answer. So they have to take turns and answer. As we saw, one participant is a naive participant, the others are assistants of Ash. So these assistants, they were already trained to give the wrong answer. Deliberately, they had to give the wrong answer. Now the lines were such that the right answer was very obvious. Like the standard line is there. Supposing on one trial, there were many trials, so say on one trial, B is the line which is exactly matching in length with the standard line. A would be too short, C would be too long. So anybody could see and tell that B was the correct line, which was matching with the standard line. But purposely, the assistants would give a wrong answer. And the assistants were in majority. Because there was only one naive participant and there are 6 or 8 of these people who are going to give the wrong answer. So I hope you can see what Ash is creating here. He's creating a group pressure or a majority pressure situation. Ash had deliberately designed the trials in a way that the genuine participants' turn to answer would either come last or second last. Before them, most of the assistants would answer. So before the naive participant could answer, he would see that most of the other people are giving the wrong answer. For example, let's say they all are saying C is the correct line, which is matching with the standard line. So imagine you're the participant, you know that B is the correct answer. But before you, everyone is saying C is the correct answer. You get pressurized. When your turn comes, you feel, what should I say? Should I say B is the right answer or should I say C? Because everyone is saying C. What Ash found is, Many times participants did give the right answer, but many times they did not. Many times they just said whatever the majority was saying, even though the answer was very obvious. So he found that on as many as 36.8% of all the trials conducted, the naive participant would give the wrong answer. 75% of the participants confirmed at least once. At least on one trial, they got into group pressure and they gave the wrong answer. Only 25% participants were such who never ever gave the wrong answer, who never confirmed with the majority. So, overall, from this experiment, we learned that conformity is a very powerful social influence. Most people find it very hard to resist. Original Ash's study is not in the syllabus. It wasn't in the earlier syllabus either, but it's very useful to know about it because now what we are going to see is directly connected with this study. Also, you must be remembering in the previous lesson when we evaluated the types and explanations of conformity, we came across a point from Ash's study. So it's very useful for evaluation also. Now, I think if you go back to the lesson, you'll be able to understand that evaluation better. In the syllabus, we have to know what are the factors that get people to conform. The first factor is found to be group size. By definition, conformity is following the behavior of majority. Means there's going to be a group whom we are going to follow. How large is that group can influence conformity? There is a positive correlation. It is found that the larger the group, the more likely a person is to conform. Let's take a simple example. Let's say in your college, in your school, students are coloring their hair red and your hair are its natural color. One or two students do it, okay, you don't feel any pressure to do it yourself. But now, what if 4 students are doing it? 5 students, 10, 50 students have colored their hair red. You might start feeling pressurized to do the same thing. So, more the people that are doing a certain behavior, more pressurized you feel to do that behavior. That means group size influences you. Ash did a study, it's a replication or variation study of the original, means which we saw just now. He repeated that study. This time, though, what he did, he followed most of the procedure. That means the paradigm was the same, but he manipulated the group size. In the original study, we just saw that there was one naive participant and there would be 6 to 8 assistants of Ash who were creating pressure, means who were the majority. In this variation study, what he did, on some of the trials, there would be only one assistant who was opposing the participant. So, literally, only 2 people were there, the naive participant and one assistant. The assistant was giving the wrong answer, just like in the original study. This time, conformity was found to be only 3%. In the original study, we saw it was 36.8%. This time, why it came down to 3% means only on 3% of the trials, the naive participant gave the wrong answer. Because the group size is so small, it's just 1 versus 1. So they did not feel pressurized. There were not so many people who were giving the wrong answer. It was just one person giving a wrong answer. So most people did not feel pressurized in this situation and they gave the right answer. Then on some trials, Ash increased the group size to 2. So one naive participant and 2 assistants who were giving the wrong answer. This time, conformity increased a little. A little pressure was felt by the naive participant, and on 13% trials, they ended up giving the wrong answer to match the majority. Then Ash on some trials increased the group size to 3. There were 3 assistants who were giving the wrong answer in front of the participant. This time, conformity reached almost the level of the original study. It became 32%, very close to the original study. So we can clearly see the positive correlation again. As group size is increasing, more the number of assistants giving the wrong answer, more that the naive participant is also giving the wrong answer. So more conformity. But there is a leveling off point. That is very important, what Ash found. He manipulated this further. He increased the group size from 3 to 4, 5, 6. It went up to 9. It didn't matter. Whether there were 3 assistants who were giving the wrong answer or whether up to 9 assistants who were giving the wrong answer, conformity remained around this point only. We've already seen that in the original study. So what did Ash interpret from this? He interpreted that the greater the group size, the more is normative social influence, more group pressure that people feel, more that they start fearing rejection because so many people in front of them are opposing them. So conformity increases, but we have to remember the caveat up to a certain limit. So it levels off after a group size of 3. The next variable is unanimity. Unanimity means unity, how united the majority is. Again, there's a positive correlation. What is found is the more united the majority are, that is, more that they are sticking to one point, more that a person feels pressurized to follow them or to conform to them. So again, Ash did a replication of his original study. This time there were two conditions. In one condition, the majority that was pointing out the wrong line, giving the wrong answer, they were all united with each other. Means every single person of the majority gave the wrong answer. But in one manipulation, that means on some of the trials, all the assistants forming the majority did not give the wrong answer. There was this one assistant who would give the right answer. So this time Ash had trained his assistants that one of you must give the right answer, the rest of you can unite and give the wrong answer in front of the participant. This time something very interesting happens. When all the assistants are united with each other, conformity is 32%, which we've seen it stays around that point usually. But when there's even one person who breaks the majority and gives the right answer, conformity comes down to as low as 5.5%. Let's take an everyday example. So I gave you an example. What if your classmates are coloring their hair red? So let's say you're in a class of 50 students, 49 of them have colored their hair red. So you might also go and color your hair red because the group pressure is very strong. You're fearing that they'll not approve of you anymore with your natural hair color. But let's say one other student is there, just one, who has not colored their hair red. So one person is breaking the unity of the majority. Then it is less likely that you will conform. So when one confederate gives the right answer, conformity comes down to 5.5%. In fact, something even more interesting was found. There were 3 lines like we saw, A, B and C for comparison. If there was one assistant who was giving a wrong answer, it was just different from the majority. Like in the example I had shown you, B was the right answer matching the standard line. Majority was saying C. What if one of the majority people said A? One of the assistants said A. That is still a wrong answer, but at least they are giving a different answer from the majority, though it is not the right one. Still conformity came down. It still came down to only 9%. So it doesn't matter whether the person who's breaking the unanimity is giving the right answer or the wrong answer. As long as unanimity is broken, the naive participant will gather the courage to refuse conforming. So unanimity or people being cohesive in the majority is very important for conformity. Finally, task difficulty. We saw there was an emphasis by Ash that his task was very unambiguous. It was very clear. It was very obvious which is the right answer, which is the standard line, comparison line matching the standard line. What if the task is made difficult? What if it is made ambiguous? So let's say there is a standard line in front of the participant and all the 3 comparison lines that are there, they are only very slightly different from each other in length. They almost appear to be the same. Now the task is difficult. Now when the participant has to give the answer, so say they are thinking B is the right answer, everyone else is giving some other answer, they might feel, okay, maybe I'm not seeing correctly. The lines are too similar. Maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe it's not B. They are saying C, it is C. So this is a difficult task where coming to the right answer is not obvious. It's difficult. So this is exactly what Ash did in one of his replications. He made the comparison lines all very similar to each other. And he found that conformity increased. Unfortunately, for this study, we don't have even in the original paper the percentage to what the conformity came. We only know that it became greater than standard 32% in this case. Ash's reasoning was that here ISI has also become a force besides NSI, which is already there. So not only people are fearing being rejected by the majority, now they also have a desire to be correct and they are not sure whether they are correct or not. So for that point of view also they are looking at the majority. Means they want approval also from the majority and they are seeking the right answer from the majority. So because now these 2 forces are playing on the participants, they are more likely to conform. That's why conformity rates increased. So in all 3 variables cases, we have seen a positive correlation. Greater the group size, stronger the unanimity, greater the task difficulty, more is the conformity. Let's see evaluation for this topic. First, in terms of research support, there is a study by Lucas et al. This was very close to Ash's study. In this study, participants were given maths problems to solve. Now we know maths problems can range from easy to difficult. So what Lucas et al. Did in their study, sometimes on some trials they give participants easy maths problems to solve, and on some trials they gave them difficult maths problems to solve. What they found is that as long as problems were easy, participants did not conform with others. Whatever answer they came to while solving the problem, they would give that to the researcher. But when the maths problems were difficult, then they would agree with the majority. Even if from their own solving, the original answer which they got was different, they would not give that answer to the researcher. Rather, whatever they would hear other students giving as the answer to the problem, they would just repeat that. This is very close to the last variation which we just saw, task difficulty. When line lengths were similar to each other in Ash's replication, people started agreeing more with the majority as to which was the correct matching line. So same thing Lucas et al. Found. That means task difficulty is indeed a factor which increases conformity. Another strength of all these variables is because they all have come from Ash's variations. The underlying research by Ash, all his replications have been very standardized. They have all been lab experiments. So these results are very reliable that have come out from his study, which give very great reliability to all the factors that we have just seen. For example, in Ash's line study, whenever like we saw used to do many trials in one experiment, on every trial, all the participants would get to see exactly the same lines. They were sitting in a group setting. They would get to hear answers in the same order. For example, if their turn was second last, always they would get to hear the answers of 6 or 8 people before them before giving the answer. Or sorry, if they were last, if they were second last, then 5 or 7 people would speak before them. And they would always hear the same confederate responses. Only one participant would come to the lab at a time. So supposing all others are saying C is the right answer. When the next participant comes to the lab, even they get to see the majority saying C is the right answer. Same with the third participant. So all these things were kept same across trials and across participants. So we cannot say that the results which Ash got were because of some inconsistency in his procedure, because he exposed different participants to different conditions. That's why some of them showed conformity, some did not. That was not the case. The experiments were always very standardized. And that is why the findings were very consistent. And all the variables we have seen, we can rely on them for being the correct variables that influence conformity. But what about the weakness? All these variables are based on Ash's research, and we should know Ash's research typically involved American male college students. Like if we take the specific example of the original Ash study, there were 123 American male college students, and all these studies were done 50s onwards. So it's been like almost a century or at least 75 years since these studies have been done. We should know that conformity is seen at different rates in different cultures. America is an individualistic culture. The self is more important than the community. People do conform. We saw very good rates of conformity. But in collectivist cultures like Asian cultures, people in fact keep the community before themselves. In that case, some researchers have done studies in countries like China, and they found conformity rates are even higher than what was observed in American college students. Why would that be the case? Because when we place the community above the self, then all the more we desire to fit in with the community, because we know that our fitting into the community is what will take us ahead in life. So no doubt good conformity was found in these studies, but we can expect even higher in collectivist cultures. Same is the case with females. Females typically feel more pressurized by groups than males, because females have traditionally had a subservient role. They have been made to believe that they always have to agree with whatever other people are doing. They should just follow the majority. So that's why also we can expect that conformity in females would be different from males. And finally, if we talk about temporal, like time related applicability of these findings, these studies were done in the 50s. Today, people might be less conforming because more individuality is rising, and because of globalization across countries, people are becoming more vocal, more assertive. So, maybe today we might not see similar rates of conformity, though there are studies which are showing similar rates even today. So, given that the sample is very selective in Ash's original study, we don't see much generalizability. The findings might be limited. As a counterpart, like I told you, recent studies, there's a 2020 study, I don't remember the name of the researchers, who did an online quiz study. In that, they made participants answer some questions individually first on the online quiz. Then later, they gave them feedback of what other people were giving as answers to that online quiz. And then they asked them to answer the quiz once again. This time, they found that most people agreed with what the group was saying. They changed their answers to match that of the so-called feedback that they were given, that other people are giving these answers. So this can be a counter that though we speculate because of more assertiveness, people might conform less today, that is not found to be the case. Empirically, they're still conforming as much. I think in the online quiz study also conformity came to 78% of those who participate conformed at least once. And in Ash's study, we saw it was 75%. So almost the same. So yes, a weakness is we cannot generalize too much, but we can generalize to modern times. That's what recent research is showing. Finally, as another weakness, and again to apply an issue and debate to this topic, we can take individualism versus situational, individual versus situational debate that is relevant here. Again, like we saw in the previous topic, there's a lot of focus on situational factors, all the factors we saw: group size, unanimity, task difficulty. These are external factors, these are influencing conformity. These are not coming from within people, but that becomes reductionist. We should look at individual factors also. So for example, again, confidence, personality, independence would matter. Let's say unanimity is a factor, but what if the person who is facing this unity or unanimity is very confident, very outspoken, very assertive? It wouldn't matter to them. Even if unitedly other people were giving a wrong answer, they would still have the confidence to give the right answer. So we need to account for such personality factors. We will look at one personality factor later, locus of control, a little later. After 2-3 lessons, it will come up. That can be added as an example here. Or in the previous section, I gave you need for affiliation. The previous lesson, you can revise that, and that can also apply here. That would make people more conforming, regardless of the situation. So in terms of individual versus situational explanation, same reasoning can be taken for reductionism versus holism. These variables take a very reductionist, very situational view, and that is why they are limited in how they look at conformity. We also need to account for individual factors. So that's it for this lesson. The next lesson should be on obedience, I believe, Milgram's study. I'll see you with that soon. Goodbye.